is video log 1 of 4 of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. This is topic number 1, the book summary and review. This book is about George and Lenny, who are two ranchers who travel around from ranch to ranch in search of job, and as they're in search of job, they encounter many conflicts and mice. Lenny, he had mice when he was little. A backstory is he had mice when he was little, and he would play with them. But because he was so big, he didn't know that he couldn't squeeze them, and they would die. So he would squeeze them, and he would squeeze them too hard, and so they would die. And as you get farther along in the story, you find out that he did that again, but it wasn't with a mouse this time. This time it was with a person. So this book has murder and mystery and conflict. It's a really interesting story, I think. The storyline's a really fun one, and sometimes it's hard to follow at times, but it's a really interesting story. One of the times that there's conflict is in, I think it's the third chapter, where it's between George and Curly, because Curly's wife, Candy, not Candy, that's a guy. Curly's wife, she is what you would call a tart, which is basically basically a common day hooker is what you would call her. And so he busts in, and he is looking for his wife. And so, I'll read it. He storms in and he goes, "You seen a girl around here?" he demanded angrily. George said coldly, "About half an hour ago, maybe." "Well, what the hell was she doing?" George stood still, watching the angry little man. He said insultingly, "She said she was looking for you." Curly seemed really to see George for the first time. His eyes flashed over George, took in his height, measured his reach, looked at his trim middle. "Well, which way did she go?" he demanded at last. "I don't know," said George. "I didn't watch her go." Curly scowled at him and turning, hurried out the door. George said, "You know, Lenny, I'm scared I'm gonna tingle with that bastard myself. I hate his guts. Jesus Christ, come on. They won't be a damn thing left to eat." They went out the door. The sunshine lay a fine line under the window. From a distance, there could be heard a rattle of dishes. In this particular moment, this is one of the major conflicts between George, Lenny, and Curly, because Curly he's a boxer, and so he feels the need, he always has to prove himself worthy, and so he's always trying to pick fights with people bigger than him. And so that's one of the major conflicts. And since Lenny is big, even though his last name's Lenny Small, which is ironic because he's not actually small, he's quite large, he tries to prove himself. A review for this book, if we were rating it on a scale of 1 to 5, I would probably give it a 4, because 5, first off, no books are perfect, because in every book there is something that can be interpreted the wrong way to make the book seem like it's not perfect. So in this book, I would have to say it would be the language. The language is really hard to follow, and it's hard to keep up with at certain points in the book. But then again, at other points, there are really good points in this book, and there are some points, like the language and some parts of the book, where you're like, oh, that was a very good term to be used there. But that would be the overall review of this book.